Hello my dear children, you all are warmly welcome for the science lesson. Today's lesson is the beginning of your grade 6 science syllabus. Today we are going to learn unit 1 of your grade 6 science syllabus, that is Wonders of the Living World. Before the lesson, please check whether you have got your writing book, textbook and the pen with you, because you must take down all the important parts of the lesson while I am explaining. I think you all are ready for the lesson. Let's see. Our topic is Unit 1, Wonders of the Living World. This lesson is based on these subtopics: living things and non-living things. My dear children, at the end of today's lesson, you will be able to explain the living things and non-living things appropriately. As well, you will be able to list out the living things and non-living things. Then I will explain you the characteristics of organisms. For examples, growth, nutrition, movement, respiration and reproduction. My dear children, these are known as the characteristics of organisms. Actually, these characteristics are not shown by non-living things. They are shown only by living things. Once again, we will read them. First one, growth, nutrition, movement, respiration and reproduction. Then I will be explaining all these things, but in today's lesson I am going to explain you only about growth and nutrition. The other three parts will be discussed in my next lesson. Right. Before the lesson, I have got a nice picture to show you. You all can observe the picture very carefully, and then you have to think about the components you have to observe in this environment. Look at the picture. You can observe different plant varieties, then water resources. There is a hut, it is made of wood, and the mist, the environment is covered by the mist. Then you can see a lot of things. Then you have to understand that this environment consists of different components. Once again, you have to understand the environment consists of different components. Actually, the word environment is not new to you. You are familiar with the word. We meet the word environment in different times. What do you mean by the environment? We will see. Yes, the environment is our surrounding where we live in. The environment is our surrounding where we live in. The environments consist of different components. Let's see it using some examples. Our environment consists of land, then water bodies, buildings and plants, right? Our environment consists of land, water bodies, buildings and plants. Then I have got some pictures as well. There are animals. Then I have got some pictures. Then when I started the lesson, I said you that you must take your writing books to write down the note. You have to list out these things in your writing book, and you can have a picture collection. You can collect some pictures and paste them in your writing book. Those are different components of an environment. Right. Let's do a simple activity. Find out the things that you can see in the following environments. My dear children, I will give you several environments. They are different from each other. We will see different components of those environments. Look at the picture. There is a picture given on the screen. You can see. At the first glance, you can identify the picture is a scene of an urbanized area. There are vehicles, the people and many artificial things in the shops. Then you can see that this environment consists of different components. We will see the second picture. A picture on the screen, then actually that is a newly established human settlement area. You can see water resources, a large number of houses. Behind the picture you can see that there is a range of mountains and there are clouds in the sky as well. The mountains are covered with the mist. Then you have to understand that here also there are different components. This environment also consists of different components. Yes, a lovely place. We all love to play in the beach. Then that is a picture of a beach. You can see there are rocks, then sea water, sand on the beach, and there are plant varieties. Then you can see that this environment also consists of different components. Last picture. A calmful forest. There can be thousands of plant varieties, a river flowing, and there are rocks. Those are the components of this environment. Although we can't see the animals, there must be animals living in this environment. Right. By looking at the pictures, what we have got to understand is different environments consist of different components. Different environments consist of different components. The components of the environment can be categorized under two main groups, right? You have to understand that our environment is a unit. It has two main groups. They are living things. The other group is the opposite of that, non-living things. So once again I will explain you. The environment where we live in consists of two main groups. They are living things and non-living things. Living things. Before explaining about the living things, I would like to give you some examples for living things. Then you will be able to identify the characteristics of living things. Let's see some examples. The man, the dog, tree, then parrot and the cow. My dear children, you can understand that the pictures given on the screen indicate the living things. Can you say me a feature of these living things? Yes, the size, weight or height of these organisms increase with the time. They increase with their age. So that is the feature of living things. Non-living things. First of all, let's see some examples for non-living things also. After that, I will explain. Water is a non-living thing. Then books, pebbles, vehicles, pen. Then you can understand that these objects that are given on the screen do not have an ability to grow with the time. So they are known as non-living things. So as these things are new to you, once again I will explain you. Our environment consists of two main groups. They are living things and the other group is non-living things. Right. We will do a simple activity. Divide the living things given below into two more categories. Right. Now I will give you a list of substances. You have to actually a list of living things. You have to divide the given living things into two more categories. We will see. Right. Then I have given you a list. First of all, we will read them one by one. After that, we can move on to the next part. Rabbit, crow, grass, mango tree, cat, pig, cow, dog, coconut tree, parrot, jack tree and bamboo plant. Right? I think you also joined with me. Rabbit, crow, grass, mango tree, cat, pig, cow, dog, coconut tree, parrot, jack tree and bamboo plant. Now, yes, then I have separated one group. Now, let us see what are the things included in my first group. Rabbit, crow, cow, dog, parrot, pig and cat. Then we can give a common name for this group. What is the common name? The common name is animals. The common name is animals. Now, here are the living things, then we have separated only the animals. Right. On the other side, you can see grass, mango tree, coconut tree, bamboo tree and jack tree. My dear children, it is very easy to understand. There are living things inside the first oval and they are categorized into two groups as animals and plants. Then you have to understand the living things are subdivided into two more categories. They are plants and animals. Then you have to understand that our environment consists of living things and non-living things. Again, living things are subdivided as animals and plants. Right. Look at the diagram given on the screen. Then what I taught you is well summarized on the screen in this way. Living things can be divided as plants and animals. Right. Yes. Here is a question. Let us read the question first. Are there any other organisms except plant and animals? In our environment, the plants and animals are living together. Are there any other organisms except plant and animals? Yes, there are. What is that kind of organisms? We will see. Right. I have given you three pictures. These organisms cannot be observed through our naked eye. These organisms cannot be observed through our naked eye because they are very small. As they are very small, we can't observe them through our naked eye. So, we call them microorganisms. The word micro means very small. So, these organisms are known as microorganisms. Then you have to understand that our environment consists of plants, animals. In addition to plants and animals, there are microorganisms also living in our environment, but we can't see them. If we can't see the microorganisms, how do we observe them? The categorization of living things: plants, animals and microorganisms. The living things can be subdivided not into two groups, they can be divided into three groups as plants, animals and microorganisms. Right. The organisms that cannot be observed with the naked eye are called as microorganisms. I explained you it just now. Here are some pictures of microorganisms. Then bacteria, virus and varieties of fungi are known as microorganisms. How do we observe microorganisms? If the microorganisms cannot be observed through our naked eye, there should be a special method to observe them. How do we observe the microorganisms? Yes. This is the instrument used to observe the microorganisms. We call this compound microscope. As well, we call that light microscope. Right? Have you seen the compound microscope or light microscope? Sometimes you may have seen it, sometimes you may have used it. But today, I also have brought a light microscope to show you. We will see. My dear children, this is a light microscope and we can call it compound microscope. You can see that there is a glass slide, right? There is a glass slide. The specimen to be observed should be kept on this glass slide and it is kept on this stage. we call this part as the stage of the microscope, and it is kept on the stage in this way. Then we can observe the specimen using this lens. The lens closer to our eye is known as the eyepiece. This is the eyepiece, right? Then in grade 7, you will be able to learn more about handling of light microscope, but at this moment you have to identify the instrument. It is enough. This is light microscope, or we call it compound microscope. We can observe microorganisms using the light microscope. Unfortunately, you are not with me. If you are with me, I could have done some experiments with you. In the school, your teacher will show you some microorganisms using this light microscope, right? At this moment, you have to identify the light microscope. That's enough. Yes, the compound microscope is used to observe things that cannot be seen with the naked eye. Characteristics of organisms. Right now, we have done the first part of the unit. Then the characteristics of organisms. Here are the characteristics shown by the organisms. Number 1, growth, nutrition, movement, respiration, reproduction. Let us read it again. Growth, nutrition, movement, respiration and reproduction. These are the characteristics of organisms. These characteristics are identical only to living things. These characteristics are not shown by non-living things. Let us take the topic as growth. Before explaining about the growth, I have got some nice pictures to show you. We will see them first. A lovely animal. What is that? It is a kitten, right? Let's see what has happened to the kitten now. Yes, there is a kitten, a baby cat, and it has become a well-grown cat, right? A well-grown cat is there. The baby cat has increased the size of the body, the weight of the body has increased, then it has become a matured cat. Then a puppy looking at you, then a small puppy, then the puppy has become a dog, right? It is a well-grown dog. We can say it as a matured dog. Then a very small plant, with the time it has become a huge tree. My dear children, you have to understand that at first the organisms are small, but with the time they have increased their weight, height and the size of the body. Then you have to understand that this is known as the growth. We will see a simple definition for the growth. The size of plants and animals is increased with the age, right? The increase in size, height or amount is called growth. You can write this. The increase in size, height or amount is called growth. Right. To explain more and more about growth, I have got some other pictures to show you. Yes, I think you can understand the sequence. Eggs, then the chick comes out from the eggs and there is a cock or a hen. A small baby, then he has become a child and a matured man, right? By looking at the pictures, you can easily understand what the growth is. Right, growth is a common feature for all the plants and animals. Then I have shown you how the growth is taking place in the plants. You can see there is a seed. The seed is in the soil. then the seed has started to germinate, right? Germination and growth of a seed, you can see the seed is germinating and it has become to a plant. That is also an example for the growth of the plants. My dear children, now you can see the growth of the plant, how the growth of a plant is taking place by looking at the diagram. I have got a simple instrument to introduce you. Actually, I brought this to show you only. This instrument is known as oxynometer. This is used to measure the growth of a plant, right? You will be able to learn more and more about this instrument in your next grades, but at this moment, for the time being, you have to understand that this instrument can be used to measure the growth of a plant. This instrument is known as oxynometer, right? You can observe it carefully. Yes. That is for the growth of the organisms. Now, let us see the next part of the lesson. The next topic is nutrition, but before talking about the nutrition, we will see these pictures. You can see that the rice is eaten by the man. The man eats rice. Meat is eaten by the lion. The lion eats meat. Grass is eaten by the cow. The cow eats plants or grass. You have to understand that the man, lion and the cow are animals and they depend on different types of food. My dear children, the animals need to satisfy their food requirements. That is known as the nutrition of animals. The nutrition is a common feature for both plants and animals. We will see more about nutrition. Satisfying the food requirements of organisms is called nutrition. Satisfying the food requirements of organisms is called nutrition. Plants are autotrophic. The plants are autotrophic. I think that word is new to you, right? You have to be familiar with the word. The plants are autotrophic. I will explain you the word autotrophic later. And the animals are heterotrophic. Autotrophic and heterotrophic, two different words. Plants are autotrophic. Why? The plants can produce their own food, right? Then this ability is not with the animals. The plants have a special ability of producing their own food. That is why we call them plants are autotrophic. But when we think about the animals cannot produce the food. The animals cannot produce the food. They depend on the food produced by the plants directly or indirectly. So, that is why we call the animals as heterotrophic organisms. I think you can understand the difference between autotrophic and heterotrophic. Green plants produce food within themselves, so they are autotrophic. Animals can't produce their own food, so they are heterotrophic. Yes, a very important process. When we think about our environment, this process performs a great function. The function is providing food for the survival of biosphere. You can observe that there is a green plant. The green plant absorbs the light of the sun. There is a green plant. The green plant absorbs the light of the sun and the carbon dioxide gas is available in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is absorbed by the green plant. Then what is absorbed from the soil, right? We will see them again. The green plant absorbs sunlight, then carbon dioxide is available in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a gas which is naturally available in our atmosphere, and what is absorbed from the soil. Then there is food produced inside the plant actually glucose is produced there, and there is a byproduct known as oxygen. This process is called as photosynthesis. I think you have not learnt about photosynthesis before this. So, this is the first time you learn all these things. Then it is very important to identify this process. I have summarized the process of photosynthesis in this way: carbon dioxide plus water. Then carbon dioxide and water are used as raw materials in the process of photosynthesis, and the necessary factors for the process of photosynthesis are sunlight and chlorophyll. Right now, as you are at the beginning of grade 6 science syllabus, you might not be knowing about chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll means a special color pigment which is available in green plants. Then carbon dioxide and water are raw materials of the process of photosynthesis, and in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the green plants can produce glucose, and the byproduct is oxygen. Then here are the raw materials of the process of photosynthesis. Then glucose and oxygen are the products. Out of the products, glucose is the main product while oxygen is the byproduct. The main product of photosynthesis is glucose. The food produced by the process of photosynthesis is taken by animals directly or indirectly, right? My dear children, you know that the plants can produce food. The animals can't produce food. So, the animals depend on the food produced by the plants directly or indirectly. Sometimes the animal take the plant straight away, sometimes the animal take the plants and sometimes they take other animals as their food. So, the animals depend on the plants directly or indirectly. I think you can understand it well. Right. Here I thought of explaining a little about herbivorous animals because it is very important to identify what the herbivorous animals are. Animals that depend only on plant materials are known as herbivores. Animals that depend only on plant materials are known as herbivores. Here I have given you some examples for herbivores, or we call them herbivorous animals. Both are correct. You can use both words. Cow, elephant, goat, those are herbivores or herbivorous animals. Then carnivores or carnivorous animals mean the animals that depend on the flesh of other animals. Actually, we can say that they depend on the plants not directly, indirectly they depend on the plants. Animals that depend only on flesh of other animals are known as carnivores or carnivorous animals. Let's take some examples for carnivores or carnivorous animals. Lion, tiger, eagle. Those are the examples for carnivorous animals. My dear children, there are three groups of animals as herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. I am not going to explain more and more because in your unit 10 you will be able to learn about these things, right? Now, let's take the next characteristic of organisms, that is movement. What do you mean by movement? If any animal can go from one place to another, that is simply known as a movement. When we think about ourselves, we can go from one place to another while walking. That is our method of movement. In that way, there are different methods of movement. We will see. Living organisms can show different movements. Living organisms can show different movements. Animals can move from one place to another. We give a special name for that, that is locomotion. We give a special name for that, that is known as locomotion. Plants cannot do locomotion, but they can show various movements, right? I will explain you. My dear children, you know that the animals have various methods to go from one place to another. But you know that the plants can't go from one place to another, they are fixed to the soil. They are fixed to the soil, then they can't move, they can't show the locomotion. I think the word locomotion is very important. As I said you earlier, there are many new words in this lesson, you have to take them down. Locomotion means the animals can move from one place to another. That process is called as the locomotion. Right, we will see about the methods of locomotion. To understand the methods of locomotion easily, I have given you some pictures, right? What is the animal given in the picture? It is a fish, an aquatic animal. The method of locomotion of the fish is swimming. What is it? Swimming. Yes, cheetah. The animal, the method of locomotion is running. It uses its legs to run, right? Running, swimming, then running. Third one, walking. Using our legs, we walk from one place to another. That is our method of locomotion, that is walking. Creeping. There is a snake. You know that the snakes do not have legs. They can creep. They can move from one place to another while creeping. Snakes are creeping. Then flying. Flying. There is a bird. You know that the birds can fly. The birds have special appendages to fly. Right. Have you seen these pictures? Yes, you may have. First picture is sea anemone living in the ocean. In marine environments we can find sea anemone. Then coral polyps, right? There are two varieties of organisms. First one is sea anemone, second one is a coral polyp. The speciality of these animals is they can't move. Although they are animals, they cannot move from one place to another. They are fixed onto a surface. They can't move. They can't move. They can't go from one place to another. They are fixed onto a stone or onto another surface. Some animals cannot move from place to place, but they show different movements, right? Now, here are some examples for such type of animals: sea anemone and coral polyps. They can't move from one place to another. Actually, they are fixed onto a surface, but they are animals. They show different movements. They can show different movements, but they can't move from one place to another. Right. Look at the screen carefully. You can see I have given you a table. The table has 3 columns in it. Let's read it first. In the first column, you can see I have given you 4 animals. Name of the animal, there are 4 animals: fish, parrot, horse and man, right? Then in the second column of the grid, you have to find out the mode of locomotion of these animals. In the third column, you have to find out the locomotive organs used by the animals for locomotion. I think you can understand. Name of the animal: fish, parrot, horse and man. Then mode of locomotion to be found and locomotive organs also to be mentioned inside the table. Let's see the answers. Yes. Name of the animal is fish. The mode of locomotion is swimming and they use their fins for locomotion. Right. Let's take the second one. Parrot. You know that the parrot is a bird. Its mode of locomotion is flying and the locomotive organs that are used for flying is wings. You know that the birds have got wings. They use wings for their locomotion. Then when we think about the horse, it is a terrestrial animal. What do you mean by terrestrial animals? Terrestrial animals means the animals that are living on the land. They are well adapted to live on the land. They have legs and they can run fast. So their mode of locomotion is running. Their mode of locomotion is running. Then the locomotive organs are limbs. The horse has limbs for locomotion. Then name of the animal is man. We all know that our mode of locomotion is walking and we have got 2 legs for locomotion, right? I think this table is summarizing different modes of locomotion and locomotive organs used by different animals for their locomotion, right? Can you identify the plant given on the screen? Have you seen this? Yes. If you go for a ride in your home garden, you can easily identify this plant variety. What is it? Yes, mimosa. Mimosa plant shows a sleep-in movement when it is touched, right? I think we all have touched the mimosa plant. It's an interesting activity. When you see a plant, when you see a mimosa plant, normally we touch it to see that sleep-in movement. It's really interesting. Mimosa plant shows a sleep-in movement when it is touched. So we call that touch me not plant. We give a special name for that, touch me not plant. Then mimosa plant shows a sleep-in movement when it is touched. We said that when we think about the plants can't move from one place to another, but they can show different movements. They can show different movements. Here is an example for the plant movements. Sleep-in movement is a kind of plant movement. Plants also show various movements, right? I have given you 3 varieties of plants: Albizia, then Sesbania grandiflora, it is known as Katurumurunga in our common usage, and Tamarind. There are 3 plant varieties. The speciality regarding these 3 plant varieties is they show sleep-in movements in the evening, right? Have you ever observed this? Yes. These plants show sleep-in movements in the evening. When the darkness comes, they start sleeping, right? If you have not observed it so far, today also after the lesson you can observe this. Plants that show sleep-in movements in the evening, the examples are Albizia, then Sesbania grandiflora and Tamarind. Right. Plants bend towards the sunlight, right? You know that the plants can bend towards the sunlight. They have a special ability of bending towards the sunlight. I think you all have got your textbook in your hand. Please have a look at figure 1.15 in your textbook. It indicates how a plant bends towards the sunlight, right? When a plant is kept on a window sill, after some days the stem of the plant bends towards the sunlight. This too is a movement of a plant. You can see that there is a window, right? Look at the picture given on the screen. There is a window. A plant, a potted plant is kept closer to the window. Then when we observe it for several days, you can observe that the upper part of the plant has bent towards the sunlight. You can check your textbook figure 1.15, right? Then it proves us how the plants show movements towards the sunlight. Then sunlight is a stimulus. Then the plant can move towards the sunlight. This activity proves us that the plant movements towards the sunlight. Alright children, now let us see what we have already learnt. When I started the lesson, I explained you about the living things and non-living things. Then I explained you about the characteristics of living things, and I explained you about nutrition, then movement and growth of the organisms, right. Now, we have come to the end of the lesson, but before that, once again I am going to summarize the lesson in this way. There are living organisms as well as non-living organisms in our environment. Today, after this lesson, you can go outside your house and then you can have a visit in your home garden, right. Then you have to identify the living organisms and non-living things in your environment, and then you can list them in your writing book, right. There are living organisms as well as non-living organisms in our environment, right. If you want, you can take a hand lens to observe the small organisms living in the soil or living in water. Then the organisms are classified as plants, animals and microorganisms. The organisms are classified as plants, animals and microorganisms. Can you remember it? Yes, you can. The organisms can be divided into 3 subtopics. They are plants, then animals. I think you all can remember, we divided the animals into 3 groups: herbivores, carnivores and omnivores, right. And there were microorganisms. Microorganisms are living in the air, they are living in water and they are living in soil. Actually, the microorganisms can live everywhere. The reason is they have got special adaptations to live in all the environments. Sometimes the microorganisms can live in extreme environments also. What do you mean by extreme environments? Extreme environment means the environments in which the other animals cannot live. As they are very small, they can live in extreme environments also. Growth, nutrition, movement, respiration and reproduction are common features of living organisms. In today's lesson, I discussed you growth, nutrition and movement. Then respiration and reproduction will not be discussed. I will discuss these 2 parts in my next lesson. Once again, I will explain you simply what is known as the growth. I think you all can remember. The increase of the size, weight or height of the body is known as the growth. Nutrition is satisfying the food need of animals. The plants also show the nutrition. Then movement. We learned that there are different methods of locomotion. The plants as well as animals show the movements, and animals can go from one place to another, that is known as locomotion, but the plants can show only the movements, they can't show the locomotion. Respiration is the process of producing energy in our body, and reproduction is producing new generation, right. Then all these characteristics are very important. I think growth, nutrition and movement are well explained by me. Right. I want to assess whether you learned what I taught you. So, I have given you 3 questions. Let us see the questions first and we will see the possible answers for the questions. Question number 1, right. If you can, it is better to take them down in your writing book. Observe your home garden and identify 5 living things, right. Then you can go outside and you can observe your home garden and you have to identify 5 living things, right. So, If I give you some examples, you can identify birds, then soil animals, then fish in the pond, and there can be some other animals like dog, cat, parrot, right? Likewise, you can write your answers. Let's see the second question. Name 3 characteristics shown by living things, right? Then I explained you it several times. I think I don't want to give you the answer. Anyway, I will give you the answer. You can write the answer at the same moment, right? Name 3 characteristics shown by living things. You can write nutrition, growth, movement, respiration and reproduction. Out of those 5, you can write any 3 answers. Did you get it? Okay, good. Then write 3 modes of locomotion shown by animals. Write 3 modes of locomotion shown by animals. I think you all can remember. I explained you while showing the pictures: flying, swimming, walking, running, creeping. Likewise, we explained that different modes of locomotion. So, you have to select any 3 answers and then you have to write the answer. My dear children, now I am going to wind up today's lesson. I think you really enjoyed today's lesson. If you missed this lesson accidentally, you can repeat the lesson and then you can watch it again and again using channel NIE. Until I meet you with the next part of this same unit, stay safe and goodbye.